In retrospect, WCW is largely remembered for revolutionising wrestling in the mid to late 90s by going head to head with WWE in the Monday Night War and introducing the NWO. Those decisions changed the focus of American wrestling from an audience of children and families to an audience of teens and adults. WWE was forced to play catch up or be put out of business, and the Attitude Era was born. The rest, as they say, is history. For better or worse, the angles and storylines in WCW often overshadowed match quality right until the very end of its existence. So it's really easy to forget that WCW presented some absolutely stellar matches along the way. In this video, I will tell you 5 of my favourite WCW matches without any spoilers. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my choices and your personal favourite matches from the WCW vault. This is the only TV match on this list. This is the best contest WCW ever presented on Monday Nitro. It was October the 4th, 1999, and Bret Hart squared off against his hand-picked opponent in fellow Canadian Chris Benoit in this tribute match to the late great Owen Hart. 5 months prior, Owen had died in the very same arena in a tragic accident. The legendary Harley Race was the special guest ring announcer, and the men shook hands before the match. Earlier in the evening, Bret said, "By far this will be the single most important time that I've ever stepped into the ring. I'll try to do my brother proud. I hope my best is good enough. I dedicate this match to Owen Hart and to those who loved him." Forget what Benoit ended up doing later in his life. This is a classic wrestling match between two of Canada's greatest wrestling exports at the time. This is 25 minutes of perfect technical wrestling. Bret had considered retiring in the wake of this match. At 42 years old, he'd already seen and done it all. The Montreal Screwjob at the hands of Vince McMahon and WWE had already left him an emotional wreck, and this tragedy eclipsed that event 100-fold. Bret decided to soldier on, but would be forced into retirement just a couple of months later. While the White Hot NWO angle was playing out across the rest of the card, WCW boss Eric Bischoff was praised for introducing high-flying, spectacular cruiserweight action to the American wrestling scene. There were dozens of incredible cruiserweight matches presented in WCW. I could make a separate video just about that, but this one might be the best of the best. Eddie Guerrero faced Rey Mysterio in a mask versus title match. If Rey was to lose, then he would be forced to take off his sacred mask, which was sacrilege to a lucha libre superstar like him. In a recent interview, Rey said, "I knew Eddie very well. I had the opportunity to share the ring with him 3 or 4 times. The connection was already there without a doubt because I had the opportunity to work Eddie in Mexico. We already knew our styles, but the meaning of that match and the tension going into the ring that night was on another level." The match was an example of lucha libre tradition, a stipulation known in English as a wager match. Both men had to put something on the line. For Rey, it was his mask. For Eddie, it was his Cruiserweight Championship. The high-flying agility on display in this match had previously been unseen, and in just 14 minutes, these men put on one of WCW's greatest ever matches. Beach Blast 1992 is considered to be one of WCW's finest ever pay-per-view events, and this Falls Count Anywhere no DQ match is one of WCW's finest matches, and an early example of the lengths Mick Foley, aka Cactus Jack, was willing to go to for his art. Sting was WCW World Heavyweight Champion at the time, but this was a non-title match in the middle of the show, clocking in at a mere 11 minutes and 24 seconds. This contest squeezed in brutality as Cactus Jack takes no less than a dozen hard bumps onto the concrete floor and the ramp. It truly is a car crash of a brawl, one of those kinds of car crashes that you can't quite stop looking at. There are certainly better technical wrestling matches, one of which was on this show alone, but this one is a heck of a fight that goes all over the arena. Goldberg's famed winning streak brought him to the main event of Halloween Havoc 1998 in a match against DDP for the World Heavyweight Championship. Goldberg had won the WCW World title from Hollywood Hogan on a huge episode of Nitro on July the 6th, 1998, continuing his famed winning streak in the process. In my opinion, this is Goldberg's greatest match. At a reported 154 wins to 0, DDP seems like one of few credible challengers to defeat that winning streak and take the heavyweight title with him. These men were absolutely the hottest baby faces in WCW at the time, and the audience were every bit as into this as anything going on with the NWO at the time. As Goldberg made his way to the ring, Tony reminded us that DDP was instrumental in bringing Goldberg into WCW in the first place, which added a nice personal touch. I must note that only in retrospect do I question why Goldberg needed to be surrounded by police officers on his journey from the locker room to the ring. It is actually ridiculous when you stop and think about it now, but I digress. For many fans, this was one of the few times they could see a loss happening for Goldberg, and DDP seemed like a real threat. The third match between Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat for the NWA title in 1989 was a 5-star scorcher. It is one of wrestling's iconic feuds, and all of the matches in this 1989 trilogy still hold up incredibly well today. Previously, the men had faced off at the Chi-Town Rumble, then a rematch at Clash of the Champions. Steamboat won the first contest and the second match was thrown out. Ric Flair was absolutely one of wrestling's most iconic figures by 1989, a true superstar heel that had no problem telling you all about his accolades and his riches. Opposed to Flair was Ricky Steamboat, considered to be one of the most adept and technically sound wrestlers in the industry, and a nice family guy to boot. For my money, this match from 1989 was never surpassed in WCW. It remains the greatest match ever promoted by that company. The two men gelled perfectly in the ring together, creating magic between the ropes. Incredibly, no before planning ever went into the matches between the men. In an interview, Steamboat said, "We'd go out there and just wing it. When we did that 2 out of 3 falls match in New Orleans, we had our 3 finishes and that was it. The rest we called in the ring. We'd listen to crowd responses, and if something came up in the course of a match and we got a good response from it, then okay, we've got a little fork in the road here and we're going to take a right, and it changes." Ric Flair would add, Ricky Steamboat had everything. He had charisma, work rate, intensity, and one of the best bodies in our business. I don't think I ever had a bad match with Steamboat. He was the best I ever wrestled against. A phenomenal performer, we had great chemistry and a lot of respect for each other. That good guy, bad guy thing worked really well. It was awesome. When two of the greatest performers to ever lace up a pair of boots are saying these things about each other, you know you just have to check out their work. Don't just watch this match, watch all 3 in the series and let me know what you think.